Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about the latest Ant-Man film from Marvel. I apologize that this film's a little bit later than what I usually do. This is a film that was really hard for me to get into. I think the original showing I wanted to go to was sold out. I wanted to go with some friends. Wouldn't you know, those friends weren't available until another week or so. So that's why I apologize that this reviews are probably a little bit later than usual for what I do for my movie reviews. But going back to the film I'm reviewing for you today. That's the latest Ant-Man film, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This is also the beginning of Phase 5 for Marvel, so all the Phase 4 titles are done with, all their experimenting is done. They claim that Phase 5 will have more of a focused direction. It's going to be more so about the Avengers going up against Kang. So I think we're going to start seeing more Marvel films where the Avengers start to form again. But anyway, back to this movie though, you guys. This is the third entry in the Ant-Man franchise. We follow Scott Lang, who is Ant-Man, who's played by Paul Rudd. We follow him after the events of Avengers Endgame. He's published a book. He has a daughter that's starting to become an adult now. Unfortunately, like himself, she's kind of a con artist herself. She's gotten in trouble with the law a couple times. She also has an Ant-Man suit herself, so she's able to kind of get into trouble with that suit and things of that nature. So basically, Scott's trying to reform his life. He's trying to move on. He, has this book published, so he's still pretty famous from that. People still look at him as an Avenger, but the Avengers are kind of dissolved now. They're kind of all going their separate ways, and so Scott's trying to do the same thing for himself. But basically, one night over the course of dinner, his daughter has basically stated that she has been working on a project that can immediately put her into the quantum realm whenever she needs to go there because she's trying to study it because her dad was stuck there for so long, with her grandmother being stuck there for so long, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. And so basically she's trying to show the family what she's been working on, but things go wrong. And it sucks both Scott Lang and Michael Douglas and Michelle Pfeiffer and the daughter all into the quantum realm again by accident. And so while they're there, Michelle Pfeiffer has this, secret that she's trying to keep secret from everybody. I think her name is Janet Dime or something like that. I know she's the mother of Wasp. She's basically Wasp's mother, played by Evangeline Lilly. And so basically, while they're down there, she's trying to keep this secret. She knows about this person that's down there that she does not want to come in contact with again. And obviously, from the trailers, we all know that is Kang. And so basically, while they're down there, Kang is basically forcing people, specifically Scott Lang, to do these really terrible things for him so that his mission can be accomplished. And so he can go back out into reality and basically fulfill his destiny of being Kang the Conqueror again, specifically conquering the universe. So over the course of this movie, Scott Lang and his team have to figure out how to stop Kang, make sure that Kang stays within the quantum realm, that he does not succeed with becoming Kang the Conqueror again, specifically being Kang the Conqueror out in reality somewhere. But overall, guys, I enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's not a great Marvel movie. It's definitely not one of their better ones. I know a lot of people online have been really not liking this movie. I know it's one of the lower rated Rotten Tomatoes Marvel movies right now. For me personally, I think it is a little overhated right now. I really feel like, there's certainly problems with it. There's certainly some negatives I'm going to go over as to why I personally don't think it's one of the better Marvel movies, but certainly not as bad as people said it was. If you've enjoyed Marvel up to this point, I can't see why you wouldn't enjoy this one either. So let's go over some positives and negatives as why I enjoyed this film, but why there's things about it that probably won't be as good as, some other Marvel movies that we've enjoyed in the past. So for my first positive of this movie, guys, the film intro to Kang, getting him into the cinematic part of the MCU, I thought was very effective. Jonathon Majors does a great job playing Kang. Very threatening. I felt scared of the guy. I felt like he could really do something terrible and harmful to me if I didn't follow his directions. And I'm sure, Scott Lang and all these other characters felt the same way. Just a very menacing performance. Definitely a character that I'm excited to see how the Avengers can take him out if he really does become as big as he's hoping to be. So definitely a very strong intro to this character. It'll be interesting to see what Marvel does with later films with him. I don't know if we're going to see him in Guardians 3 or anything like that, but I'm sure he's going to show up in other projects. And it'll be interesting to see how Marvel decides to take him on and how the Avengers decide to take him out, depending on who all those Avengers are. I also really enjoyed the sci-fi aesthetic of this movie. There's a lot of things when they're inside the quantum realm where they encounter certain kind of creatures and certain kind of sets. They have buildings that can move around and kind of have life of their own. So all the creature design and set design I thought was very cool and effective in this movie. I don't think it is going to win Oscars or anything. I don't think it's going to be in the best visual effects category for next year or anything like that. But I think for the most part, very strong aesthetic for this movie. I definitely enjoyed like all the sci-fi elements to it. I definitely see all the people referencing Star Wars and Flash Gordon with this movie, and I really enjoy that aesthetic that they had. The whole aesthetic of looking like Flash Gordon, looking like Star Wars. I think that sci-fi aesthetic for this movie is very strong. Paul Rudd is also really charming as Ant-Man. You just really love the guy for being so charming and funny. He definitely carries that through again with his performance as Scott Lang in this movie. So if you like the way he portrayed Ant-Man in the past, I think you're really going to enjoy the way he continues to play the character here in this movie. Still a funny character, still a funny man, still is able to do the most that he can with the jokes that are given to him. Definitely a very charming actor to watch here in this Ant-Man movie. Michael Douglas, who plays Hank Pym, he has these going back to kind of the ants that he controlled in the first Ant-Man movie. I won't go into spoilers, obviously, but there's a way he can control those ants again, the way he did in that first movie. And when you see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But the way he uses those ants from those earlier Ant-Man movies, I thought was definitely a very strong payoff to this movie. I like the way that they handled that. I like the way the CGI was handled for that once again. The use of all these ants and how they fit into the quantum realm and all that kind of stuff. So definitely a very cool use of something that was just kind of a little throwaway element to an earlier Ant-Man movie, but definitely brought back in very strong fashion. Definitely a strong payoff for this movie. So for those who haven't seen the film yet, and for those who have seen the movie, you might know what I'm referencing as far as Hank Pym's ants go. So I thought the use of that and the payoff for that was very effective. And for the most part, this was a consistently entertaining movie. I was very entertained by it. I never felt bored watching this movie. I was consistently invested in what the film was trying to do. So if you're looking for strong entertainment, I don't think this film's going to let you down. It's also only about 2 hours, so it's not a super long Marvel movie. So it's not like Eternals where it's like, oh my Lord, how long is this movie? It's not like that at all. Consistently entertaining. I never felt bored throughout this movie. Now for my negatives of this movie, and I think why it's probably going to harm this movie over time as far as how it ranks amongst other Marvel movies for me. I think my biggest issue with this movie, and I've seen a lot of people complain about this online as well, is the character of MODOK. His CGI in this movie is absolutely terrible. For all the money that the Marvel films get to get these productions off the ground, there really was no reason for MODOK to look this bad in this movie. The CGI for him really was quite bad. I also thought the way MODOK was handled in Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier, was stronger. So for those who remember that computer character in that movie that Steve Rogers and Black Widow encounter in that bunker, I think that was supposed to also be MODOK. So the way they handled him in that movie was much more effective. If you're going to ground him in reality, that's the way to do it. The CGI for this version of MODOK was just really bad. My friend and I were even looking at this movie like, and that's supposed to be Hollywood CGI. So the CGI for him was really not good. Whenever he showed up, just super annoying. For me personally, I would have just written the character out of the movie, but definitely not a very strong interpretation of how to handle MODOK. And the CGI they used for him was really not effective at all. I also thought the story setup of this film was very weak. It's one of those story setups where if Scott Lang's daughter handled technology better than she did, probably the whole story could have been prevented. So it's just one of those really weak story setups where one character's mistake literally sets up the rest of the movie, and a lot of it could have been prevented if that character was just more careful. So misuse of technology ultimately creates the story as to how it plays out. So I thought the story setup of the film was extremely weak. I would have preferred another reason as to why they're going into the quantum realm and all that other stuff. Another negative I have with the movie, and I actually had this problem with Shang-Chi as well back when this came out. There was some vulgar humor in this movie that really doesn't really fit a Marvel movie to me, because most of these Marvel films are about PG-13, and there is some jokes here where it's just like, wow, that's in a PG-13 movie. Specifically, once again, going back to MODOK. There's just some vulgar humor that I don't think fits into a PG-13 Marvel film very well. Fine if they want to put in an R-rated Marvel film like Deadpool or something. Like those films are designed to be that level of dirty, but there's just some vulgar humor that showed up throughout this movie that felt very out of place to me, and I just don't think it fits very well in a PG-13 Marvel film. I had the same complaint with some of Awkwafina's humor in Shang-Chi back when that came out. So just a sense of humor that really doesn't fit the Marvel films necessarily to me. Another negative I had was that Bill Murray is in the movie. He has like the kind of this glorified cameo, but I think that's my issue. Is you go through the trouble of getting Bill Murray to be in a Marvel movie, and all you really have for him is just this glorified cameo. I don't know if they just couldn't pay him the way he wanted, or if he wasn't as available as they wanted him to be. So I don't know if that resulted in him kind of just having more of a glorified cameo than an actual role in this movie. So that was just one issue for me. It's like if you're going to have Bill Murray in the movie, give him something to do. Don't just give him a glorified cameo. I really would have preferred if they given him something that would have been more fun for him to do and would have made him last in the film longer as well. But overall, I'm going to give Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania 8 out of 10. There's things about it that I really like. There's things about it that I do recommend and enjoy, and I think other people would enjoy for those who like Marvel movies. But there is some negatives about it. MODOK CGI really was unquestionably very bad. The story setup was very weak here. Some of the vulgar humor was very out of place to me. And Bill Murray only getting a glorified cameo, I thought, could have been handled better. I think even just giving him a small role where he shows up throughout the movie more often would have handled better. So 8 out of 10 for me. Definitely not one of Marvel's better films, but definitely not the weakest film like you've heard people say online. I think that award probably still goes to Eternals for me. So 8 out of 10. I enjoyed this movie. It's not a great movie, though. Go into knowing that it has issues, and I think if you keep your expectations in the right place, I think you'll have some fun with this movie. 8 out of 10 for me.